I want to bring in now Republican Congressman Lee Zeldin of New York, a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and co-chair of the House Republican Israel Caucus. The congressman also served in Iraq and is a lieutenant colonel in the Army Reserves. Good to see you. Always thank you for your service.
Great to see you.
Let's first of all just react to some of Jennifer's reporting right then and the point that she was making that I reiterated, that, you know, that the rhetoric may change inside Iran because they've got to do a calculus now that includes a lot of people, not the ones on the streets, but those other millions of people, citizens that don't agree. They don't want more sanctions. They do want outside help from the world, or at least attention.
Yeah, the regime in Iran, it really has been beholden to hardliners. There are people in Iran, IRGC specifically, and their supporters, where they want a stronger stance. They want to hear death to America, death to Israel. They call Israel the little Satan and America the great Satan. When Iran was engaged and has been engaged in all these destabilizing activities throughout the Middle East, there is a portion of the Iranian populace that encourages that and props up this regime because of it. Now, you also point out that there are also millions of Iranians who want stability, peace, freedom, prosperity. That's a different direction for Iran that they should be pursuing going forward. But to your question about what you might hear at times for domestic consumption, we've heard in the past, we're hearing it now, we may continue to hear it in the future, where they say some awful things that are outrageous to us. And some of the messages really aren't meant for us as much as to those hardliners that keep them in power.
You know, I love having you on the program because I haven't been able to ask anybody else this question. You served inside Iraq, and I'm curious, how are they making the choice to let Iran do something inside their country and not choose us? You know, you saw on Twitter the president, basically telling them, you have to help protect the bases where Americans are housed. Why should he even have to say that?
Right, and you also have Iraqi soldiers at these locations with U.S. troops. You have, as you know, different types of people who are in the Iraqi government. There are some who strongly oppose Iran, have in the past, they do currently. You have others who, in a way, have evolved into Iranian proxies themselves. They are beholden to Iran. In some cases, they are aligned in a positive way for their relationship. Others, it's negative. They're doing it because they're scared. They fear, whether it's for their life, for their family's life, where they have to take these positions that provide Iran cover. So even I think under the Shia leaders inside of the Iraqi government, you have to break that down into people who might actually sympathize with Iran and others who are just sympathizing because they fear it.
I'll move to this. Most House Republicans are praising yesterday's Iran briefing, saying it clearly explained the strike that killed Iran's top general. But on the Senate side, President Trump's allies like Mike Lee and Rand Paul went after it.
The briefing lasted only 75 minutes, whereupon our briefers left. This, however, is not the biggest problem I have with the briefing, which I would add was probably the worst briefing I've seen, at least on a military issue, in the 9 years I've served in the United States Senate.
I see no way in the world you could logically argue that an authorization to have war with Saddam Hussein has anything to do with having war with people currently in Iraq.
Meanwhile, the president had this reaction to his GOP critics.
I get along great with Mike Lee. I've never seen him like that. But other people have called and they've said it was the best presentation they've ever seen. We killed a man who killed many, many Americans and many, many people.
Look, I know you're not in the Senate, but that has to be being talked about on Capitol Hill today. I mean, Mike Lee spoke for quite some time.
Yeah, so on the House side, I haven't heard that from any of my Republican colleagues who were in the House briefing, which I was in as well. I thought the briefing was fantastic.
Were they
it was
that
the briefers,
different?
I don't know what was different. I wish I could have, I could be able to answer that question having also sat in on the Senate briefing. But what I'll tell you is this, that what you know, what all of your viewers know about Qasem Soleimani's past with the hundreds of people that he killed, with the thousands more that were wounded, the people who were recently killed and wounded, the attack on the embassy, and even the IRGC put out a statement right after the killing of Qasem Soleimani, where even they acknowledged that Qasem Soleimani was in Iraq for confrontation against Americans.
Before I let you go, I want to get this in here. I don't know if you were able to hear it or not, but Congressman Ro Khanna, Democrat from California, was on with me just a few minutes ago, and he was talking about bipartisan movement with some of your colleagues there in the House. So you got that going on in the Senate with some pushback on the briefing yesterday, but he says, no, guys like Matt Gaetz might go with him on a war powers resolution. What are you hearing?
I haven't heard that. I will say that consistently you have some Republicans through the years, through the administrations, where they believe that there is an important point in time when there is escalation at all with any other nation that Congress should have an increased role to play. The Congress has powers under Article 1. The President has powers under Article 2, and it is under those powers of Article 2. That's one of two things that were cited, the other being the 2002 AUMF. The President cited Article 2, and that's where, my opinion, if you are going to kill 600 U.S. troops and wound thousands of others and commit all of those acts and having the other planning for attacks going forward, I have no problem with you resting in pieces because you just got blown up by our government for the best of reasons. When Nancy Pelosi talks about the word disproportionate, at what point is it proportionate? How many more troops have to die? How many more have to get wounded? But as far as my Republican colleagues go and their philosophy as far as Article 1, I respect them for it. Unfortunately, this is just without any teeth. It's a press release. They're just trying to punch the president in the face with this resolution, and that's why I think a lot of Republicans who would normally be inclined to support an effort like this don't want anything to do with it, and we'll see what happens with the debate and the floor vote.
Congressman Lee Zeldin of New York, thank you very much.
Thank you, Harris.